Hi guys, it's Sam Murray, now Councillor Sam Murray actually, a few people have been saying, where have your vlogs gone? And in all honesty, I stopped doing the vlogs because I just didn't have the time to do it, because nearly 2 years ago now, I won a double election. Oh my days. So I used to blog and vlog before I became a councillor as a political and community activist. And then the vlogs kind of fell by the wayside because I needed to get my head down, learn two councils, the responsibilities, and deal with the casework, which seems to be never ending, but I enjoy every minute of it. However, I've been given a camera. I've been told to stop making excuses and get back to vlogging, which is what I'm going to do. And so what better way of starting this off again is by taking you round my wonderful division, which is Whitehouse and Witham, and my ward, half of which is in Whitehouse and Witham, and that is Castle Hill Ward. Just for a little mooch around, let me show you what I've been doing for the last 2 years, or some of which I've been doing for the last 2 years, and a little bit of an insight into what it is to be a councillor. Some of the pros, some of the cons, and some of the painful things I've been working on. So let's go. Okay, so we are now in the White House part of my division, and I thought, what better way to start than the most controversial thing, and one of the first things I had to do when I was elected. So I am currently in Blakeland Park Estate development, Blakeland Park development, and I am going to take you to something that is the most controversial thing of my time so far. Reaction I didn't expect to have, to be honest, and it told me a lot about human nature and actually gave me a lot of lessons of what to do when you're a counsellor. So behind me here, now I'll take you around, so we're just past Sutton Road, are some planters. So these planters have caused chaos. So we popped these planters in, as you can see here, to stop Jovian Way being used as a ramp. So we've got a development here, and people were driving through here, and down here to get past the traffic on Sproughton Road. As far as I'm aware, the development was not built to have this as a rat run, and that's what I was told when I was first elected. So this was a historic thing that happened before I came about, and then I kind of inherited this decision. Public consultation went out, and the majority of people who came back and answered the consultation were in favour of closing this off. The planters were put as a temporary measure to see how things were going. People who live on the development felt that the area was safer. We had many residents tell us about the vans that were parking up, were speeding down, and it was generally an unsafe environment for the families that were living here. So when I was elected, I thought it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. And I'll take you to another area which also helped with my decision to sign this off. What I didn't expect is there to be a series of unfortunate events that happened as soon as I agreed to do it, which then taught me a huge lesson of being a counsellor, and that is that not everyone is going to like you all of the time. Not everyone is going to agree with the decisions that you make, and if you're going to make a decision, stand by it and hold your own, basically. Those planters have seen people drive into them, move them. We have had many questions brought forward to us. We've been freedom of information and all sorts to try and get those removed. The majority of people on the development itself want them to stay. It's people that want to use it as a rat run who obviously wants it open.
So this is Europa Way, and at the end here it's going to be extended all the way across to Brantford Road, and yeah, it's caused us a few problems along here. So what I thought was going to be approved at planning in a few weeks has then taken 2 years, some of which has been because of an archaeological dig. Did you know there's a shortage at the moment of archaeologists? And also they found rare orchids and slow worms, and slow worms had to be relocated. I feel like I shouldn't know any of this, but I do know this, and so now you all know this. The worms are relocated to Gainsborough, of all places, and so this is the end of the road. Now, had this have been approved before we closed the other road off, I think that would have reduced the anger. Another lesson I've learned since becoming a councillor is there doesn't seem to be a lot of joint up thinking. So people look at individual projects and then concentrate on those. So I feel that if someone in the council had said, look, we've got these amount of projects in the area, we want to close off Jovian Way, but first we should look at Europa Way, then the lives of the residents here would have been made a little bit better, and actually it would have been a lot easier to go through with the decisions that we as councillors made. And so that was kind of lesson number 2, was that people look at their individual projects and not projects overall. So my advice is, if you do get elected, do a lot of background research about your ward and division in advance, and also try and get involved at the early stages of suggesting the bigger picture, because once we get so far down the line that public consultation is involved, then it's almost too late. So yeah, just really be on top of it. So another thing you'll need to know if you are a county councillor, you won't need to know this really if you're a district councillor unless you're on planning, which I happen to be on planning. I didn't think it'd be the most exciting thing in the world, but actually I really enjoy it. Is drainage is your bread and butter as a councillor. Never in my life did I think I'd ever be saying that, but yes, drainage is important. Another key problem in this area which causes no end of traffic is the amount of drainage issues that we have. So this roundabout here hopefully is going to have a solution to the problem in the area. Drainage needed to be resolved for sure, which is going to be, we needed better infrastructure, which hopefully that road will give us. And also something that I discovered quite early doors, but I kind of didn't mean to discover, is the lights at Cllr Road. I have never really thought about traffic lights before. Don't think I've ever needed to think about them. The only thing I've ever thought about traffic lights is I'm stuck at these traffic lights and I'm wasting my life stuck at these traffic lights. But actually, did you know that there are sensors that inform the traffic light as such, that there is traffic there? And once the sensor has picked something up, then it will change your signal. So at the top of this road, which is Broughton Road, is a set of traffic lights, and I had been going back and forth, as you do, getting around the division, and I was thinking, I'm waiting far too long at these traffic lights. What the hell is going on? So I contacted Highways and just said, look, I know this might be a really, really basic question, but is there something wrong with these lights? They went out and had a look at it, and turns out one of the sensors was broken. And so it wasn't kicking into gear the next sequence as such. Any engineer that's watching this will be cringing, thinking this isn't how that works. That's my understanding of how it works, and so that's what I'm going with. And so they repaired that sensor, and that sped up the flow of traffic. So I guess the reason I'm telling you all of this, which is very, very boring, I'm sure, is because it gives you a little bit of a sense of, you know, if there is one problem, aka traffic, it doesn't mean that there's one solution, aka keeping a rat run open. It means that there is a bigger problem going on, and as a counsellor and as a council, you need to look at the bigger picture here and find out what all the other things that you can do to come up with a solution. And it's not always the easy way out. Unfortunately, with the sensor at the traffic lights going wrong, with the flooding issues, with the massive delay of a planning application being approved for another road, our decision, which was, I still maintain to this day, was the right decision, was aggravated an enormous amount because of all the other external factors, which the public, to agree, wouldn't know about. And actually, if you're stuck in traffic, do you really care about all that stuff? You just know that you can cut through a road and get somewhere quicker. When actually the people that lived on that road were feeling unsafe. They were having near incidents with children, and you know, damage to their own cars, and that's not what they moved there for. So yeah, all this going on, none of which I had any experience with beforehand, pretty much immediately from when I was elected. So that's one area, and an awful lot of complication for one particular thing, and none of which had anything to do with potholes. Okay, so short drive away, and we are again in my White House area, and we are on Ulster Avenue. So this area is also a hotbed of activity for me. Lots and lots of work to do, lots and lots of work has been done. The roads here are in quite a bad condition, but I'm assured they are high up on the list, so hopefully by the end of my first term, at least one of the roads here will be resurfaced. So I'm taking you on to Marlow Road, which has got White House Community Primary School and then Westbourne Academy. 2 schools in my division. I have 8 overall in my division, which is lovely and also a challenge, because what many of the schools have in common are parking issues. Most of you will know that there are never-ending parking issues outside of school. People get very annoyed when they see this, but don't want to be part of the solution when it comes to the school that their own children are going to. So this road is incredibly small, very, very small, very tight, not a lot of space, as you can see here, and that car gives you a bit of perspective. And not only do we have parents parking on the zigzag lines, we have people parking on the verges, blocking driveways up, and parking all on these verges as well. So pick up and drop off here is, again, carnage. It seems to be one of my favourite words, and it goes all the way down to the high school, but the problem isn't as bad at the high school, because most of the kids seem to make their own way there anyway. So I have come up with a few ideas. I've got a few ideas from parents and from the school. We were going to try School Street. So School Street is basically where you shut off the 2 sides, volunteer led, and you will, I'll just film this side just in case any children come into shot, as they're clearly out and we don't want that. So so it's to shut off both sides, volunteer led, and then it pushes the problem somewhere else during the school time, because actually, as you can see here, it's not that busy during the day. It's just the drop off and pick up. I've also asked for more bollards, but I found, thanks to Rob Dunger, who is he does Felixstowe Radio, community radio, he posted pictures of little posts that look like pencils, so I've actually asked for those. I can imagine I will get what I always get, which is a big fat no from highways, but don't get if you don't ask. So I've asked for them. I've also asked for this road to be a one-way system, which was another suggestion, and so highways have gone away and are going to look at that for me. That will probably be a big fat no as well. Then I'm not going to walk all the way there because I'm already shattered, but you see those bushes at the end there? They are where some of the teenagers appear to be storing undesirable items. So I have been asking the borough council if they will cut back on the hedges. Now, unfortunately, because of nesting seasons, it's not as simple as just cutting it back. So it's tricky. Sometimes I want to go all guns blazing and go, right, okay, you know, kids' safety and people's safety is more important than a couple of birds nesting, but the law is the law, and frankly I think that animals seem to be better protected than humans. I'm on a community safety group for the borough, and I have asked if we can do a like a survey of what bushes are around schools anyway, and see what ones we can cut back just to reduce the dangers there. And the borough have said that they're going to do that. So it is incredibly varied, and so yeah, this is one of my schools. I've been in a few times to support requests, but again, as a councillor, you know, people think that you can just get stuff done and you can go, right, you're doing this, but yeah, a lot of things that happen that make a difference are volunteer led, and if you can't get the volunteers, then a lot of these things just don't go ahead, unfortunately. And so it looks like what was going to be the first school street in Suffolk might not be after all, but I am chasing it up because I do think that is the right solution, and hopefully making this a one-way system. But I think I'll be retired by the time that comes into fruition, which makes it sound like I'm quite negative, but if you've had the 2 years that I've had, where you've sent 17,000 requests over, and 99.9% of those requests have been a big fat no with no reason why, just this isn't how it's done, you become very realistic about things. So I do say to residents, I will do my best and I'll always try for you, but the likelihood of it being a yes is slim, and that is my biggest frustration being a counsellor, is how many times you get told no, and that is lesson number 3, or a lesson. I don't know how I'm going to edit this, so I better stop giving numbers to it. But another thing you'll need to pick up quite quickly as a counsellor is you want to change the world, but there are so many things and obstacles in your way, and if you try and come up with something that's slightly out of the box, they will say no, and they won't say no but let's try this either. It will just be a no, and that can be incredibly frustrating because I don't come from a place of no. So I'm walking up Ulster Avenue now, and I will show you the Baptist church. We've got a defibrillator there, which was part funded by the area committee, so we don't have parish councils in Ipswich. Another bone of contention with mine, because a lot of policies are reliant on having a parish council, but we don't have parish councils. But we do have a thing called an area committee, and the area committee has some funding. I would sooner have a locality budget, but we've got like a pooled funding for the area, and so that there is the defibrillator that we part funded. Behind the Baptist church is a nursery, and this is the other entrance of a community primary school. There's a nursery there, which I am funding an allotment area so that they can grow their own veg, and they're going to be doing cooking classes, which is something I'm very passionate about. And myself and my colleague David have also funded a stay and play for parents and toddlers and babies there as well. So we've done cooking classes. The allotment is going to be taking place to help people grow their own food and learn how to cook that food. Healthy eating is something that I'm quite keen on getting the message home too. I think there's a perception that, you know, convenience food, it's called convenience food because you think it's quicker, and it's not always quicker, and it's not always cheaper either, actually. Another lesson that I learned early on is do not get attached to inanimate objects, and do not get overexcited about your achievements. And anyone who knows me will know where I'm going with this, and that is my sexy roundabout. A roundabout had been smashed to smithereens for quite a while, and I made it my mission to get it repaired ASAP as soon as I got elected, and then the day that it was repaired was one of the greatest days of my life. In fact, I found it so amazing that I insisted on showing every councillor that I came into contact with at a council meeting. I forced them to look at photos as if it was a newborn child. It felt like the greatest achievement, and I was so happy with it that I labelled it my sexy roundabout, which caught on, and then people were sending me pictures of the roundabout, writing over, wow, what a sexy roundabout. Then I went for a walk with a colleague of mine and spotted this. Spotted this. This is my roundabout. Not so sexy anymore. So soon after I had it repaired, an HGV went over it and smashed it to smithereens. I'd be lying if I said I didn't cry. Yeah. And so another lesson is do not get too attached to inanimate objects, because the more attached you get to it, the more devastating it is when it is smashed to smithereens by an HGV. The company has contacted the council and let them know that they are responsible for it, and so it is currently going through the process of insurance and that stuff, so hopefully we'll get a solution for it. But to say it was soul destroying to see that, and to not be told about it, to discover it myself, made it even worse. So yes, my sexy roundabout is no longer sexy. Now we are at Castle Hill Park, which is in Witton, but the border of some of the park is in Castle Hill. So first of all, I've got this gate changed. It's quite minor, but actually it automatically closes now, which is safer for children. And that is important because of this bad boy. Brand new park in the area, which is frankly wonderful. There's not many big projects that you're involved with as such, and though people did think I was micromanaging at one point, and I take that on board, the fact that we could give feedback on a design was fantastic, and I am very proud of how it came out. The officers did a fantastic job, but there was a few requests that I put in and some changes that I requested, and it's lovely to see some of your ideas coming into fruition. inclusivity is one of the things that I'm about. I didn't think I was about it, but I am about it, because I've lived with disability all my life. I've got children that are SEN. I have a disability, though I'm quite well today, hence me coming out today. And you just deal with this stuff. And I didn't really think it would be a thing, but actually turns out it is a thing, to be inclusivity minded, I guess, because it doesn't seem to come natural to many people. So let's have a look around. This is brilliant. Look at this. So sign language board. I didn't request it, but the officer that found it did a fantastic job. A lot of this is really sensory, and I just absolutely love it. So Castle Hill area is known for its Roman ruins. So this is a Roman themed park, and I think they've done a fantastic job. One of the things that people have contacted me about a lot since is the autism communication board, which has gone, but I'll send you a picture of that and contact the council to find out where it is. But I will pop a picture in this video to show you what it was, and it meant a lot to me personally because we had to use picture exchange for my son when he was non-verbal, so to see that in a mainstream park, it was fantastic. But my greatest achievement since being a counsellor is this here, which is an ability swing. So I asked for an ability swing soon after becoming a counsellor, and I didn't realise how difficult it would be to get. I wanted one that you could swing alongside an able-bodied child, and so basically you pop the wheelchair, the child and the wheelchair can go on there. There's QR codes of how to set it up, and the child can swing while still in their wheelchair to still experience the sensation of swinging. And because it is next to another swing, they can swing alongside their friends and still feel included. And yeah, this is it. This is my greatest achievement as a counsellor, is the ability swing, and I'm very proud of it, if I'm allowed to be very proud of something. It is the first ability swing in Suffolk. I'm hoping it's not the last. There were concerns about whether or not it would be damaged. It hasn't been so far, and I hope that it never will be. I am yet to see a child on it, in all honesty, but I have been contacted by people who have said that they've seen children play on this, and so that fills me with great joy. May just be a swing to some people, but for others, if you've got someone in your life who has a disability, that can be quite a lonely time for the person who has the disability and also the greater family. Just think about, if you've got a child who is a wheelchair user and you've got another child who isn't, how do you accommodate for both children who both have completely different needs? And to have something like this means that some families will just get out of the house and have some fun, and there is inclusivity here, and even down to the benches. So I'm happy with this. Again, a request of mine is that this area here has concrete on it, so that if you have a wheelchair, you can wheel onto there and still be part of the picnic. All seems to be no-brainers, really, but you would not believe how few places have these bits of consideration. It is, in my opinion, bread and butter stuff. But I guess if you've not lived with disability or had to have that consideration, then it just doesn't come into people's thoughts. But this park is fantastic. I think anyone who had a part in this is brilliant. Even this is wheelchair accessible. And disability isn't all about wheelchairs, by the way. So even though this is wheelchair accessible, the swing is an ability swing. They've got they had an autism communication board for if you use picture exchange for non-verbal children. There's an awful lot of sensory play here as well. Different colours, people who children that need to experience the textures and puzzles, and even having this this sign language board as well. Just hello, welcome, and you are cared for, thought about, considered, and very much part of our community. And so this park, and having a small part to play in this, has made the last 2 years very much worthwhile. I'm not like some other counsellors. I'm not as hardened to things as other counsellors, and I'm very emotionally invested in a lot of things, which proves it, given that I cried over a roundabout. And so with something like this, even now I well up, because you just do feel like you've made some form of difference in the world, and that's basically all I want, is to know that I'm part of something, and I'm doing something, and my life is worthwhile. Sounds a bit deep, but that's what matters to me, and that's what motivates me. And so if I have made a difference, and if there is purpose to me, then that completes me, and that's pretty much all I do this for, even if people choose not to believe that it is why I do it. Blimey, that is heavy, actually. Charles not getting through. So this here is Castle Hill School. I am a governor at this school. I look at the SEND side of things here, but also as a counsellor I go in and support the junior road safety officers, and that scheme is excellent. And we as a council work with those children to come up with a solution. This road, Congreve, has a speeding issue definitely down here. It's not a massive stretch down here, but it's big enough for people to get, as displayed there, quite a speed on. A child was hit by a car recently down here, and so I'm doing all I can to come up with solutions here. I'm trying to get a speed indicator thing that has a smiley face, sad face if you're speeding, but unfortunately I'm being met with no's at the moment by the council, mainly because we don't have parish councils and they don't have Ipswich policies to account for that. There are 2 bus stops. There is a bus stop there, and then we spin around. There is a bus stop just down there. The junior road safety officers asked if we can get one of those bus stops removed, because when the buses are at both of them, it reduces their view to be able to cross the road safely. The fact that we've got the park here and the school on that side of the road is a concern. I've looked it up, I've gone through whether we can do this with one of the officers, and it's not something that can be done, and there is method in the madness of why we've got 2 bus stops so close together. And so I will be going in and explaining that to the junior road safety officers, but I don't think they should be demoralised from that. I think it's a really good lesson that we've identified an issue. They've come up with some solutions for it, some of which we will be able to do, but this one we won't be able to do. And so if I go in there and explain why, then I think that is a really good lesson for them to learn as well, because these kids are going to be the future politicians, future engineers, future highways people, and so what better way to start them off with is to problem solve in this way. So even though that was a no, and no frustrates me, it was, my arms get tired so I'm going to move, it was you know, there was a genuine reason why it was a no, and so I've got to book in an appointment to go in and see them. I love things like junior road safety officers, because it's a child's voice, and actually children do definitely see the world differently to us, and they don't have that embarrassment to like ask a question or highlight something, because they don't have that fear that it's, you know, a stupid thing to say. And I think a lot of adults do have that fear of looking stupid, and so, you know, to get the view of a child often it gets me a, you know, relatively good and balanced perspective of things. So I work closely with them, and the teachers there empowering these children to have a voice in their community are doing a brilliant job, and I thank them for supporting those children, who in turn can't help me do my job, and so it all works quite well together. So that's a school with a completely different layout. Something like a school street wouldn't be appropriate for them, but there are other things that I'm trying to come up with, one of which my ideas was to use mannequins of children and move them around so that people would be unsure whether they were children or whether they were mannequins, and they would just slow down. The reaction I've had from the council has not been a positive one. I'm still not really sure why it's a big fat no, but at the moment it's a big fat no, which is disappointing, because I think, you know, mannequins are the way forward. You heard it here first, guys. So this is Garrick Way. Garrick Way is one of a number of shopping parades that I have. Garrick Way has been selected as in the first tranche of shopping parades that could get some funding here. Myself and Councillor Fisher has been heavily involved with trying to get this over the finish line. It has taken an awful lot of time, and a letter has gone to the council by government because they've been unimpressed by it. Unfortunately, us councillors who have been working really hard have had a bit of flack from it, but it is very much in the hands of the borough, who have been dragging their heels, quite frankly. Because they've been taking so long trying to do anything, I've taken it upon myself, out of my locality money, to get some quick fixes here. This area here has been flagged as being quite dangerous, so normally cars park here. I have had to wait for them to go, so as not to get into a conflict with people, and then we've got cars that park here illegally, and then cars that park along here, which is dangerous. So I am funding some planters, yes, planters again, and some bike racks here, so that the children or adults can park their bike there properly. It will look nice in the area. The community garden is going to maintain the planters and the plants there, and hopefully it will increase the safety here. I've also funded these T markers in the parking here out of my locality budget, in hope that that will help some of the parking issues, because the shop owners have been saying that there's simply not enough spaces here to reach the demand, and so those T markers hopefully will make sure that people park within the bays, and we are looking at other solutions. But those are a couple of things that I've been doing here. I am heavily involved with this shopping parade. I have been speaking to the shop owners on a regular basis, and I was very, very forceful with having this parade in particular on the list of parades that should be getting the funding. I submitted an application before the applications went out, and have been lobbying very, very hard on behalf of the shop owners for Garrick Way. So when it came on as one of the parades that could be getting some money, I was absolutely delighted by this. and I do definitely support them, and I will continue to support the shop owners and the greater community in that area. Shopping parades are the bread and butter for areas like this, and especially given that this particular shopping parade have care homes around it. Sometimes those would be the areas that people can only get to. Some people just don't want to go into town or can't physically get into town. We're also looking at making some of that accessible, safer, and we have been helping the shopkeepers, shop owners, and staff there to fill in their forms, and I wish them every success, and I will continue to support them for as long as I am a counsellor here. Now we're in Castle Hill, and I am at Highfield Nursery School. So Highfield Nursery School and Children's Centre, I have had a lot of dealings with since becoming a counsellor, and most of their problems have been regarding their actual building. They didn't have a security entrance with 2 doors. That might not mean much to anyone. It certainly didn't really mean much to me when they contacted me, but when they explained that they need 2 security doors in order to put in a policy for if there was someone that was entering the building with ill intent, they have to do a safety procedure of where they put the children in those situations. They didn't have 2 security doors, and so they needed a whole new entrance. I can't show you the entrance because there are children on the premises and that wouldn't be appropriate, but myself and Councillor Goldsmith worked hard with the council and managed to secure the funding, and a new entrance was built. And it was really enjoyable to go in and make some tiles with the children so that they could do a new display on the entrance, which looks lovely. So that was a really, really fun experience, but really practical thing. It was so needed. The next thing on the list there, which we have been working really hard on, is trying to secure them funding and get the approval for the back rooms there, which are basically leaking conservatories. There's no other way of describing it, and no children should have to work in those conditions, and so those rooms are unusable as working spaces for the children, and they really need to utilise that space and put extra SEN provisions in, which they can't do if they don't have that space to them. So that is an ongoing thing. It's been ongoing for quite a number of years now, and we're hoping we can get it over the finish line. Meredith Road, that's where we are now, and it's another shopping parade in my division. This side of the road is Castle Hill, this side is Witham, but I am still a counsellor on the county for both sides, but this side is my borough, this side is not my borough. Another lesson is learn your boundaries, because people can get quite sensitive if you step over a line and go into the wrong side of the road to do something. So people are very sensitive about what is their patch, and actually that includes me. I'm quite sensitive. I don't like people working in my patch who isn't from my patch and hasn't spoken to me about it either. So at first I was like, wow, people are mega sensitive about what side of the road you're on, but I can now understand why, because like I say, you invest so much time and energy into representing your area, and so for someone to come along and try and do something, chances are you're already working on it, can be quite frustrating. So this shopping parade is also going to hopefully receive some Towns Fund money. It's a very, very busy shopping parade, as you can see, made busier recently by highways changing the traffic lights at the end here, and they changed the traffic lights for a Suffolk-wide policy that was based on prioritising buses, and whatever they did to the traffic lights caused more carnage. So my favourite word at the moment. And so the buses were coming through, they were coming down here, and then they couldn't go anywhere because there was just back-to-back traffic everywhere. So yes, I've lobbied the council, had an awful lot of excuses being made of this is this policy, this is that policy, and at first they refused to look at it, and then with enough lobbying and actually making it public knowledge what had happened, meant that they did look at the traffic lights, and turns out a fault was caused by changing them. So it wasn't even just changing them to that sequence. For some reason a fault occurred during the change, which has now been fixed, and the traffic is noticeably better. And this just came about with me noticing that there's an awful lot of traffic. A colleague of mine, Councillor Fisher, moaning at me about it on a regular basis, me getting caught up with it as well, thinking what on earth has happened here. So a bit like Sproughton Road lights, I just contacted them and said, it feels to me like it's traffic lights. Is there a sensor broken like there was somewhere else? Can you look into this and let me know? And they said, oh, we've changed the sequence. So it was an inquiry that then led into a little bit of a campaign really to get the change, and we managed to get it fixed. So another thing I've learned is always ask the question, because even though you're not, you know, an engineer or anything like that, or an expert, you're probably not an engineer, you might be, I certainly am not, ask the question anyway and say, look, something just doesn't seem right here, and keep pushing, and then eventually you'll get a solution for your residents. And traffic causes air pollution, which isn't good for anyone. So it's all well and good doing all these bus prioritisations so that people can get on their buses, but the bus can't go anywhere and it's idling. It's not really an effective policy, is it? So another win for us, and more work that I've been working on in the area.
There you have it. Took you on a little tour of my division. I only covered about, I don't know, 20% say of the work that I've either done or am involved with. But if I'd have taken you out any longer, then A, I would have been exhausted, and B, the video is already, I can imagine once I've edited this, is already too long. So I hope it's given a little bit of an insight how varied the things are. I know it was quite highways heavy, but you know, there are things that we simply do as councillors that we can't really get into: the supporting families, the casework, the housing issues, conditions that people are living in, getting supplies for people with the cost of living crisis. I am delivering more food parcels than you know, anyone should ever feel comfortable with. There is definitely a change in need for sure, and it's a genuine need, and there are a lot of people who need help, and different types of help from domestic abuse to trying to get their children appropriate education. So it is very varied. I do a lot of training. I am waiting to get some mental health training. I've got paediatric first aid, which I paid for myself. I've done the domestic abuse champions training, and yeah, there's a lot to it. The few examples that I brought you around to see are things that, you know, I learned a lot on. I learned how to be more resilient with the public when faced with something that's not got 100% backing. I've learned how to bounce back from being the happiest person alive to see results than to see an HGV smash that to smithereens. And you know, the absolute joy of being committed to something, seeing it through to the end, and then there it is in all its glory, which is my ability swing, which I don't know if I've mentioned, but it's the first one in Suffolk. So there have been an awful lot of achievements. You've seen a few of them, but not all of them, and I've only been a councillor for 2 years. There have been a few lessons learned along the way, and I will continue to learn because every day is a school day. And that's certainly the case when you're a counsellor. If you've got any questions about the role or anything, then, you know, drop me a line, put in a comment, and I'm more than happy to make a video on that. I'm quite keen on doing more information sharing videos in time, and we will see how this turns out with my new camera. So thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.